again, Eagle Nation. I'm Tanner Argyle.
And I'm Nicole Phillips.
And you're watching Eagle Nation News on Wednesday, September 11th. Prosper High School will be having a competition cheer team for the 2013-2014 school year. An informational meeting will be held on September 12th at 5:30 p.m. in the LGI room. If you have any questions, please contact Coach Brantley in room 1228 or 1442.
On Wednesday, October 16th, sophomores will be taking the PSAT. Freshmen and juniors who would like to take the test can sign up with Ms. Benavides in the counseling office. The cost for the test for freshmen and juniors is $20. The deadline for signing up is Wednesday, September 25th.
Blackout t-shirts go on sale next Thursday and will run through the following Wednesday. They will be $15 and sold during all 3 lunches.
Friday, September 13th is the last day to order yearbooks for $55. After September 13th, yearbook prices will rise to $65. See Ms. Hamlin to order your yearbook.
Gaming Club will be kicking off the school year from 3:45 to 5:15 today in the library. Feel free to bring your DS controller or tablet.
The first meeting for the Prosper Orchestra Club will be September 16th after school in the choir room. Please bring your instrument and prepare a solo piece that shows off your individual skills.
Interact Club is a club open to all students who want to connect with others while serving their community. Interact will meet today after school, 4 p.m. in room 1104.
All mentors need to see Ms. Grant in the cafeteria during their lunch today.
If you would like a chance to win 2 tickets to the September 28th A Day to Remember House Party concert in Grand Prairie, take out your phones and follow Eagle Nation News on Twitter. Tweet the phrase #ENN free tickets to enter. You must be following Eagle Nation News to win.
It's been 12 years since the events of 9/11. Some of us were under the age of 6 and may not remember what exactly transpired on that day. It may be unclear how that fateful occurrence shapes how we live our lives today. How can a single event change the course of history?
As we all know, 9/11 is considered one of the worst days in American history. Today we have Miss Riley to give us her story on the tragic event. Miss Riley was at work in Connecticut getting ready for a workshop in New York that next week when a neighbor had called.
I remember silence. She said, "You need to go downstairs and turn on the televisions." It was right about the time that the first tower had come down and they were just starting to report. And we were watching it, and it was very emotional because we had a lot of military family that was at the Pentagon at the time. And we had family members that are firemen in New York City and detectives, and we didn't know where everyone was at the time. The second tower came down, and it went into the lobby of the apartment building that we were supposed to be staying in that night.
Miss Riley was left having to cope with miracles and losses.
We had one friend whose husband was in the tower, worked for Cantor Fitzgerald. And Rob was a British citizen, and he worked in the United States about 12 days a year. And that was his day. And so he went down with the tower. I think we lost a sense of freedom that day in the United States that, that we won't get back.
With Eagle Nation News, I'm Brennan Bell.
Thanks, Brennan. I'm here with Coach John Lewis, who was a radio host during the time of 9/11. So could you just walk me through how you remember that day, 9/11?
Actually, I was an overnight DJ, so at 6 o'clock I went home, went to sleep. I slept through most of it. My girlfriend at the time woke me up around 2 in the afternoon and said, "Hey, you need to get up. They flew planes in the World Trade Centers in New York and they've collapsed." And it kind of got out of my sleep and checked my phone. I had about 30 missed calls and my voicemail was full from my bosses at the radio station. "You got to come back." And so I went back, and my job basically for the next 18 hours was answering phone calls from listeners and trying to help them understand what was happening.
How did you respond to those calls, and how did you cope with that?
Some of them you could respond to. Others were very difficult. At this point in time, our program director basically told us, "Look, you need to be their friend." And if it's as crazy as we had some people call that they couldn't even talk. They would start just crying, and you had to say, "Hey, call me back when you." It was difficult, to say the least.
Well, thanks. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
UIO academics, what's that? We know you probably don't know. Let's just say it's a way to put your brain to the ultimate test. The reward of being recognized by colleges and possibly getting scholarships. That means money. Anyone can join, even you, yes you. Just speak with the coach of the event you want to join. For a list of the events and coaches, see Mr. Behringer.
9/11 has had a lasting impact on our nation. Here to talk about the changes in our nation today is world news analyst Lydia Nussbaum. In her You Decide.
The Patriot Act was passed in October of 2001 in response to 9/11 and increases the power of law agencies to gather information. Government agents can now monitor your personal information at any time. There have been many debates as to whether or not this act violates one's liberties. Is this act essential to preventing future attacks to the United States while protecting its citizens? Opponents of the Patriot Act say that it is against our basic American rights promised in the Constitution. Third parties such as banks or other companies are required by law to give out your personal information if the government requests it. Congressman Ron Paul says, "I have a personal belief that you never have to give up liberty for security, and you can still provide security without sacrificing our Bill of Rights." Proponents for the Patriot Act say that we need to find the threat before it finds us. This act allows for obstacles to be removed in order to investigate terrorism. Justice Department spokesman Mark Corolla says, "I think any reasonable person would agree that we have an obligation to do everything we can to protect the lives and liberties of Americans from attack." 9/11 and other past attacks has affected the way America moves forward in the future. The question is, how much power should the government have in order to protect us?
Thanks, Lydia. Today on our show, we've been talking about chain reactions. It's easy to look at a series of events and wonder how we got from point A to point B. Sometimes the root cause is buried beneath the surface. It would be easy to look at 9/11 and say, it happened a decade ago. It has no significance. But 9/11 set other events into motion. Events that are still affecting our lives today, even if you were only 3 years old at the time of the attacks. Some of the fallout from 9/11 was inevitably heartbreaking, but some of it was unexpectedly beautiful. How we respond to tragedy determines our path. We can stereotype, misplace blame, embrace bitterness, or we can rebuild. Democracy is at its finest when there is no one person in charge of changing things for the better. It's a team effort. And if we do find ourselves traveling down a road we'd rather not travel, we can always make a U-turn, find the root cause, and try again. This is why we choose to remember and not forget this piece of history. Because it happened in the past, it might be difficult to empathize with those directly affected. It might be easy to become complacent and apathetic about this tragedy. But no matter how old you were on September 11, 2001, this tragedy was not a New York tragedy. It was an American tragedy. It wasn't their tragedy, it was ours, all of us.
That's all the time we'll have for today. Until next time, I'm Tanner Argyle.
And I'm Nicole Phillips.
Live long and prosper.